Hi everyone, welcome to Epic Chess's 100th video. 100 videos already, and I hope you've enjoyed every single one of them, and if you want to see hundreds more videos, then please subscribe. The 100th video game is another brilliancy, and this is Victor Korchnoi versus Anatoly Karpov, played in the 1978 World Championship, which Karpov won 6-5 with 21 draws, so it was quite a long match. And these two were very strong players, and they squared off in the game I covered not long ago. And they were also great rivals, and there was plenty of arguments between them, and they refused to shake hands and all that. Anyway, Korchnoi was white and opened with c4, the English defence. Well, not the English, sorry. Knight f6, knight c3, e6, now d4, bishop b4, the Nimzo Indian defence, which we all know is one of the best defences to d4. Now Korchnoi plays the Rubinstein variation with e3, which is the most solid line. Castles, bishop d3, white is just getting his pieces out to good squares, and one day hopes to play e4 and liberate the other bishop, and then squash black. c5. And now d5, which has only been played in a few games and has a poor win percentage for white of like 30-something%. And the gambit Karpov plays with b5 has a win percentage of over 60-something. Also good is d6, knight g2, knight bd7, f4, takes, 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 takes. Knight f6, check, castles and d5, and black's better here. His king side's a little bit compromised, but his central play gives him the advantage. But what Karpov plays is a good pawn sack, where in return for the pawn, black gets several pawns in the centre. After takes, takes, c takes, and now a6 in Benko gambit style almost, where black's queenside pressure will be very strong if white takes. Knight g2, d5, and look at black's centre now in return for the pawn. Castles, e5, and white's getting cramped here now. a3, and now a rather dodgy move was played though, which was a takes b5. The point being is that the bishop can't be taken because of the pin on the a line, but the best move was bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, e4, bishop e2, d4, check, king h8, knight e2, and black's central pawns give more than enough compensation for the pawn. Instead a takes, bishop takes, and now bishop takes c3, which is a very bad move, and gives white the advantage and the initiative again. Bishop a5 still has some initiative, although white should be better. So bishop takes, b takes, and now although white's queenside pawns are split, the pawns do clamp down on d4, and now black's going to be forced onto the defensive. Also c5 is a target, with a4 and bishop a3 coming up. Bishop a6, rook b1, queen d6, c4, d4. The pawns are now being forced to advance to their death. Knight g3, knight c6, an invasion on f5 can also be possible. a4, knight a5, trying to get pressure on c4, so queen d3, queen e6, takes, takes, and now c5, and white's now got a dangerous pass pawn, essentially. Rook fc8, and now f4, and white's now got a clear advantage because black's centre is completely collapsing, and then black's just going to be down the pawn, although, well, he does win the pawn back, but white gets a really strong initiative after rook takes c5. And now Korchnoi should have played f takes e5, rook takes c5, and bishop f4, and white all of a sudden can get a strong attack here and has got the initiative, and black's centre has collapsed. Instead though, he goes for the favourable ending, and black has to go into the ending because rook takes a6 is punished by check, and rook c8 leads to takes and f takes e5, where black loses 2 pawns. King f7, and now bishop a3, and if the rook moves, then rook f8 is mate, which comes out of nowhere, amazingly enough. And obviously if it doesn't, black has to say protect the rook, and then you just take it with a winning advantage. So queen takes a6, queen takes a6, rook takes a6, and bishop a3, developing the last piece into the game with tempo. Rook d5, and now knight f5, which Korchnoi had calculated well, but at the start of the game he'd already lost 11 minutes due to complaining all the time. And Korchnoi was one of them, well Karpov was as well, but Korchnoi especially is one of those perfectionist players who tries to find the best move. So he'll consume like nearly all his time on the first 25 moves or something, and then he'll just blitz out the last few moves. But he was very good at this, and now he's starting to get into time pressure, despite there being a lot of time left to reach the time control, where you get another hour, I think, or whatever the time control was. Usually an hour though. And knight f5, a very strong move, threatening to take the pawn and also winning the rook. So. Well, a good interesting little try here would be e4, sacrificing the exchange for 2 connected central pass pawns. And the position would be unclear, but I think the pawns can just about be stopped. I'll leave you to have a little go at it, might be interesting. If I had unlimited time, I'd do some analysis on that, but I haven't, so can't do. King f7 though, and now f takes e5, rook takes e5, and rook b5. Also possible was knight takes d4, but rook b5 was played, and now knight c4. If rook takes b5, then a takes b5, rook b6, knight takes d4, and white's a4 pawn's turned into a very dangerous b5 pawn, and this pawn should win the game. So knight c4. And now if knight d6 check, then rook takes d6, rook takes e5, loses to knight takes e3, where black has got 2 pieces for a rook and a dangerous central pass pawn. Also possible was knight takes d4, which is fine. Rook b7 check was played, and now king e6, where black goes in for the centralised king, because in the endgame a centralised king could be worth 4 pawns. Knight takes d4 check. If white's careless and takes the wrong pawn, then this dangerous passed pawn would give black winning chances. So the most dangerous pawn has to be took. And after king d5, knight f3, knight takes a3, knight takes e5, king takes e5. The plans are clear in this position. White is going to try and win black's kingside pawns, and then he'll lose the a pawn, but he can then try and promote his 2 pawns on the king side. Black has 2 knights for a rook and pawn, and the knights actually work quite well, but the positions favours the rook, so white has definitely got more winning chances here, but black has got plenty of drawing chances. That's why the endgame should really have been like gone in for, and white is in terrible time pressure as well. Now he plays rook e7 check. If rook takes g7, then king e6, rook g3, knight c4, rook gf3, and king f7. Black's h7 pawn can't be taken, and this position will be drawn. So he plays rook e7 check to divert the king further away, and now king d4, but look at this king now. However, white should have now gone rook d1 check, king c3, rook c7 check, king b3, and now took the pawn, where black's king is far away on the queen side. Then white can try and win the h7 pawn, and then the 2 pawns should overwhelm the knight. But it would be tough. But rook takes g7 was played, and now knight c4, and all black actually has to do to get a draw now is to put his other knight on e4, which is 2 moves away, and then the h7 pawn can never be taken. Then white can never queen, the a4 pawn will fall, and black has got a comfortable draw like a fortress. So rook f4 check to stop that, knight e4 check, and now king e3, and black's actually even could get a mating attack if white isn't careful. I mean, if you remove the a4 pawn, then rook a1 check is gonna win. So white plays rook f3 check, a good move, but now king e2, and look how dangerous this king's starting to become. Now rook takes h7, and black here could have played rook takes a4, rook f1, knight e3, rook b1, and this will be a draw by repetition because black's pieces are so active. I mean, after rook takes h7, white can't lose, really, having like black's lost all his pawns. But after knight cd2, black is now trying to get a mating attack. Now here, white should have played rook hf7, rook takes a4, h3, letting the rook drop, but after takes, rook takes. This is going to be a draw, this position. Black's knight can stop white's pawns from running too far, and it could probably sacrifice the knight for 2 pawns. And worst comes to worst, even if black only gets a knight for the pawn, a rook's pawn in a rook endgame with like a rook and pawn against rook is like nearly always drawn. So black has nothing to fear here, and the players could agree to a draw here. White plays rook f3. His idea is that the a4 pawn and the rook are attacked, so he tries to save both. Now black plays rook c6, threatening mate on c1. And now, amazingly enough, to defend, white has to play g3. A knight f3 check, rook takes it, and now he can either play rook takes f3, king takes f3, and rook f7 check, driving the king away. And white has got a couple of free pawns for the piece, and should draw this easily. Or we can play king g2 check, king h1, king h3 walks into a knight fork, king h1, rook c1, and now rook a2 check, forcing the king away, and this will also be a draw. h3 also creating a space for the king, backfires to rook c1 check, king h2, knight f1 check, check, and mate. Now Korchnoi, with his flag hanging and near the time control, plays rook a1. However, now comes an absolutely horrific end. If you want to try and spot a forced mate for black, please stop the video now. Now this is a bit of a swindle, this, because black's been desperately trying to draw all game and has lost all his pawns even when he hasn't got a queen to try and get checkmate. But now Karpov plays the absolutely horrific move, knight f3 check. And Korchnoi has to resign because if he moves the king, knight f2 mate, and if he takes the knight, then rook g6 check followed by knight f2 is mate. And what a stunning end to the game. I mean, when I first read that game, I nearly had a heart attack. I thought once Karpov's lost all his pawns, it's going to be either a draw or a win for Korchnoi. But this shows that you can get mated in an endgame if you're not careful. And this may not seem like a brilliant game, but when you look at that finish and some of the ideas in this game, like black's king just going up, it really is a brilliant game. And Korchnoi lost this match by 1 point, and he should have won this game. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed our 100th video. Please subscribe for more, and so you can tell us in the comments box what you want to see more of in the future. And please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.